Hello, in this video, I'm going to talk about the radical expressions. First of all, we need to be familiar with some of the terms. So I wrote here radical 5 inside the V and A. So if you can read it from here, the mark is called radical and the number inside the V is called index and the letter or number underneath the radical is called radicand. So we can start with the square root. So square root is when the index is 2 right here, but normally we don't write it. And when the index is 3, then we call it cube root. So let's see how it works. So suppose I want to take a square root of 4, we write it like this. For when it is a square root, this is 2 actually, but we don't write 2. So square root of 4 is 2. If you notice that the number multiplied by itself gives you the radicand. So 2 times 2 is 4. So square root of 9 equal to 3. So the same thing, 3 times 3 gives you 9. Similarly, we can write a square root of 16 equal to 4. That meaning 4 times 4 is 16. So we can go on like this. So these numbers are called the perfect square, like 4, 9, 16, because we get the whole number. But other numbers also, you can take the square root of other numbers, like the square root of 3. You can use a calculator to get the answer for square root of 3. That will give you a decimal. So as it is not a whole number, that's why we call it we don't call it perfect square. So it's 1.732. 1.732. But when we want to write the cube root, then we have to write a 3 inside it. So cube root of 1 is 1. Meaning if we multiply 1 by itself 3 times, 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. So cube root of 8 is 2. Equal to 2. Or in other words, if we multiply 2 by itself 3 times, or 2 to the power 3 equal to 8. So roots and exponents are kind of opposite to each other. So let's do another one. Cubic root of 27 equal to 3. So 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 3 is 27. So we can see when, depending on this number, we have to find out a number. That number, if we multiply by 3 times, we get the radicand. So this is how you have to do it. Most of the times, the teacher will not allow you the calculator. So it's better to remember some of the perfect squares and perfect cubes. Oh, one more thing to remember, like inside the square root, you must not have a negative number, no negative. It's not allowed, it's not possible to take the square root of a negative number. But inside if the index is odd, then you can have a negative number here. So for example, a cubic root of negative 27 is equal to negative 3. Meaning if you can multiply negative 3 times, negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 will give you a negative 27. So that's why it is allowed. So keep in mind that under the radical, you can have a negative number if the index is odd. But if the index is even, you can't have a negative number under the radical. It's impossible, like it's not real or rational. Okay, so now let's do some problems. So evaluate the value of square root of 64. So now we have to think of a number. The number, if we multiply by itself, give me 64. So the number is 8. So this is you have to kind of remember or you can start multiplying. 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16, like that. So 8 times 8 is 64. So the answer is 8 for this one. So for number 2, square root of 4, 9, 0, 0. So for 49, we know 7 times 7 is 49. How do you do with 0? So if you have two zeros, if you take it outside the radical, it will be on 0. So 49, 7 times 7 is 49. And then out of two zeros, we have to, when we take it outside the radical, it will be only on 0. So 70 times 70 is 4900, like that. Number 3 is negative. Radical 225 over 169. 225 over 169. Okay, so the negative we are going to keep as it is. And for 225, it's 15. 15 times 15 is 225. You can use the calculator to multiply the numbers, like 12 times 12, 12 is on 44, 13 times 13 is on 69, like that. You keep going, multiplying the number by itself to see when you get to 25. So in this case, it is 15. And for on 69, it will be 13. So this is the answer. Negative